right, good Erev Shabbos. Shabbos Parshas Vayeshev. I have a few good divrei Torah for Vayeshev I want to share. I guess the first one I'll share is from the Noam Elimelech. It's not the whole Dvar Torah, but I remember the Biala Rebbe told me that his father and his Zayda would always say this one Dvar Torah from Noam Elimelech on Parshas Vayeshev. It was kind of a go-to Dvar Torah, where he would explain he started off just explaining this word Vayeshev, by explaining probably one of the most well-known verses of the Bible. One of the most well-known chapters in the Bible is Psalm 23, and liturgically we say this at meals, particularly on Shabbos, and particularly the third meal of Shabbos. Many people will sing it either once or three times. Pretty standard among Hasidim and many other communities to say it three times, to sing it three times. And it ends off, we all know, Ach tov v'chesed yurdafuni kol yimei chayai v'shavti b'veis Adonai la'orech yomim, saying the whole verse. So there's something wrong with saying God's name there, and just the opposite. It brings a blessing. B'chol mokim asher asker shmiya v'yilecha v'rachticha. We know it says in the Sefer Malachi that anywhere where you mention the name of God, God will come and bless you. Rashi and Tosfos explain the Gemara and the Dorim that when the Gemara says that poverty comes where there's a vain mention of God's name, that means that riches come and blessings come where there's the proper mention of God's name. But in any event, this verse, it says, may only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord. Literally, it says for long days. I know the King James translators rendered it as forever, but the actual translation is L'orech Yomim, for long days. The Rebbe Melech, he asks a question. He noticed that it says Ach tov v'chesed, only goodness and kindness. So he said Ach lashon miut. Ach means only. It means it's an exclusive term. So if it's exclusive, what does it mean? Only goodness and kindness. What's going on? And the other kasha we have on this pasuk is Yurdafuni, will pursue me, meaning will chase after me. So redifus means something you're running away from. You know, it's a very negative connotation. Redifus, pursuing. So meaning only goodness and kindness will pursue me all the days of my life. What does that mean? So Reb Melech explains, like we said, Ach loshen miut, that this term only is an exclusive term, which means to tell us that, let's say you have somebody that they're not really religious, but they're good and they're kind, right? A lot of people like that. Good and kind people, but they're not particularly, the types of people who are liturgically devoted, reciting prayers on a regular basis and performing precepts, demonstrating their faith. They don't wear the religion on their sleeve, but they're good and kind. So the Melech says that these people who might not have other mitzvahs, but they are good and they are kind, and so that's all they have. They don't have anything else, only goodness and kindness. That goodness and kindness will pursue them. They'll chase after them, kol yimei chaya, all the days of their life, until eventually it'll catch up to them, and they'll wind up v'shivti b'veis Hashem, sitting in the house of the Lord, actually becoming religious people who live a devoted liturgical life. That's what the Elimelech explains. Ach tov v'chesed. And I've seen it in my life. I've seen people, good, kind people, who just weren't that religious, but then something happened in their life, and they might not have become the most super duper religious people, but one guy I remember, he would come to shul, and he started putting tefillin every day, and he would daven 3 times a day, even though he wasn't Shomer Shabbos, but he lived far away from the shul, so he'd drive to shul. But he would daven 3 times a day, no matter what. Then he put on tefillin every day, and I remember, we were working together at the Board of Elections, and some people brought pizza, and he would have eaten the plain cheese pizza, which you could make arguments that it's not that big of a deal, one way or the other. There are different opinions in halacha. You can make an argument that you can eat a cheese pizza, that's not from a kosher restaurant. We don't do it. It's not something a good Orthodox Jew does. But there are arguments back and forth about the status of the cheese. Rav Soloveitchik was a big Talmud Chacham, an Ehrlich Yid, a tzaddik, and he would eat non-kosher cheese because he said the cheese in America has vegetable red, it doesn't need a hechsher, even though it goes against what Chazal says. But it's the same thing. Most of the modern Orthodox world, they eat chol of stam, also goes against what Chazal is saying. But they for lazicha for Moshe, but they're not but they don't for lazicha of Rav Soloveitchik, even though he's their Rav. They always say the Rav, but they don't for lazich there. They're not lenient there. Most of the modern Orthodox or centrist Orthodox world. But it's not the nafkamina there. We're not talking about a real Orthodox guy. We're talking about a guy who goes only to Orthodox shuls, but he's not the frumest guy. But it's, to be honest, to get a piece of, for someone like that, to have fish in a non-kosher restaurant or to have a cheese pizza, it's not the end of the world. But that's not why I'm telling the story. So anyway, when they brought the pizza, it had pepperoni on it. He didn't eat it. He wouldn't touch it. That's an Ehrlichkeit. That's a real... this was a guy, he was good and kind, and most of his life he had no religion, and all of a sudden he had this spiritual experience, and the rabbi came along, asked him, do you want to put tefillin? He said, not today. He asked me again tomorrow, and he asked him again, and he had this experience. Felt like he had a Gilui Eliyahu. He explained this, that he had a revelation of Eliyahu Navi. He experienced this incredible experience, and it turned his life around. And then he became, he learned in yeshiva when he was a kid. He had his bar mitzvah. His parents weren't so frum, but they sent him to yeshiva. And all his life, nothing. And then 40 years later, he became back into Yiddishkeit. And unfortunately, we lost him already 2 years ago. But this friend of ours, I mentioned at his funeral that he told us the story. He liked to go to the casino, and he saw it was almost shkia, it was almost sundown, and he decided he has to go out to his car, put on his yarmulke, take out the siddur, daven mincha, and then he can go back to the casino. And he said after that he started winning. And I said, look how holy that is, because everybody prays in a synagogue, but how many people are putting on a yarmulke and taking out a siddur and davening in the parking lot at the casino? Right? So that's what I mean. Ach tov v'chesed yirafuni kol yemei chaya. He was a nice person, a good person, and he managed to live the last few years of his life as a shifty b'veis Hashem, someone who was sitting in the house of the Lord. Oi, Tatay, Futter. That's 10 minutes, and there are other people, and Vinchton, other people also. Another guy also we lost last year. Same thing. Put on tefillin every day. He wasn't the frumest guy, but he put on tefillin every day. You know, come to shul once in a while. All right, we'll end the video here, and we'll make another video. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. All the best. Take care.